It's really something. So thank you. As you may have noticed, we've titled this digital event After November. That is an act of optimism. Yes, despite what it feels like sometimes these days, we will survive this next month. And come November, we will still have a country, a democracy, and a Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to support and defend. Of course, we'll have to fight for it. From the Sons of Liberty on, Americans have always had to fight to preserve and perfect democracy. So why should we be any different? We invite you now in the chat to share in 6 words or so what you're feeling right now about this election and about the battle for democracy. 6 words or so, okay? Think haiku, not war and peace. But as we get some really good ones, we'll share them over the webinar. Draw the Lines PA, as some of you know, was founded in 2017. It's dedicated to a particular piece of the fight for democracy, the struggle and that particular form of partisan cheating known as gerrymandering. We're pleased to be joined for tonight's program by folks from Fair Districts PA, that feisty volunteer group that has brought the quest to slay the gerrymander to every corner, every county of our state, as well as to the halls of Harrisburg. Now, it's true that some of the things FDPA has fought for so strongly aren't going to happen this cycle. For example, we will not see any constitutional amendments setting up a whole new redistricting process for congressional and state maps. But this effort was never really about just one specific solution. It is about coming up with multiple ways to give Pennsylvania better election maps, maps that are based on robust and authentic public input. And that quest is not dead. We're here tonight to tell you that along with FDPA, Draw the Lines is still very much on the field. In fact, we're stronger than ever. We're bursting with ideas on how to sustain the effort throughout the key year of 2021 and beyond if need be. We're ready to work with anyone who shares our passion to end the corrosive organized cheating known as the gerrymander. No, the fight is not done, but don't just take it from me. Take it from a character from this old classic comedy who's been kind of a spirit animal of Draw the Lines from day one. That's right, Bluto Blutarski. It ain't over till we say it's over. And here's what we at Draw the Lines and Fair Districts PA have to say tonight. It ain't over. Not by a long sight. To prove it, here's what we've got in store for you in the next hour. We'll review quickly what Draw the Lines has accomplished and learned so far to show the foundation we've built to support what needs to be done next. We'll introduce our new Citizen Map Corps, a cohort of skilled citizen mappers unlike anything any state in the union has ever seen before. Going forward, they will be the face, the voice, and the innovative arm of DTL. You'll meet and hear from 4 of them. You'll also hear from Carol Kuniholm, the leader of Fair Districts. She'll tell you about an active piece of legislation in Harrisburg right now that would go a long way to putting some desperately needed guardrails on the redistricting process next year. And you'll hear what you can do to support its passage. You'll get a sneak peek at Draw the Line's new improved election mapping tool. And you'll be part of the premiere of a new video documenting the Draw the Line story so far. And very importantly, at the end, we want to hear from you. We want to give you a chance to state what you're ready to do to slay the gerrymander, because every willing hand is needed in this fight. Here's one thing we know we need everyone to do: vote. We know this coming election dominates our brains right now. We know it's hard not to dwell on it, especially after a miserable spectacle like last night. But just remember, it all connects. Our democracy has slumped into the polarized mess it is now, in no small part because of gerrymandering. Fixing redistricting is a foundational part of the larger fix of democracy. And issues, no matter what big issue has you worried for your family's future, your nation's future, that issue will be on the slate of lawmakers who will be elected for the next decade, either on the basis of fair election maps or partisan gerrymanders. And this is a vital part to keep in mind. Most of the state lawmakers in Pennsylvania who will have final say on our maps will be on the ballot this November 3rd. So know how the candidates for state and federal office on your ballot in your town stand on redistricting reform. Fair District's excellent Know Before You Vote guide on their website makes it easy to find out. So we'd like to move on now to review a few things we've done and we learned while running over the last 3 years, the largest citizen-driven election mapping contest in America's history. You can see just some numbers that indicate the scope of the activities. The thing we're most proud of is more than 6,000 people registered on our DistrictBulder site to try their hand at drawing maps. Not everyone finished them, but a lot of people did. As you can see, 9,400 were started and more than 1,200 were completed along with an accompanying essay and entered in our mapping contest. Our most recent mapping contest just ended and we're in the process of judging the winners right now, and we'll be announcing them in October. You'll hear more about that a little bit later on. Now, what do we learn from all of the maps that were done and our mappers? You can see some of the things there in the bullet points. I want to emphasize the top one. Every map that's entered in a draw lines contest, the mapper gets to pick up to one, 2, or 3 goals out of a list of 9 that we offer. Common goals of people who draw election maps. As you can see, the ones that we tabulated all this over all the entries, more than 1,200 entries. The 3 top goals that our mappers cite are equal population, contiguity, and compactness. And you might say, those of you who are well informed, well, Chris, that's what's in the state constitution. What's the shock there? It's not the shock, it's the point that left to their own devices, examining their own values, citizen mappers agree with the priorities for maps that are offered in the Constitution, and because of a Supreme Court decision in 2018, will also be part of the congressional mapping going forward. Also note that there are 2 values on the list that we gave our mappers to choose from, which they almost never chose. They finished last and dead last in our rankings. Those are the 2 that incumbent politicians tend to care about most: incumbent protection and party advantage. So you see the distinction. Citizens, guided by their values and their sense of fair play and their desire to have a democracy that works better, when they sit down, they follow to draw a map, they follow their constitutional instincts. They do exactly the opposite of what the politicians behind closed doors in Pennsylvania have been doing to and for us over the last several decades. Competitiveness is another value that a lot of mappers go after. But one thing we've discovered is it's really hard to have a highly competitive map that is also compact, that avoids the wandering and jagged lines that many people associate with gerrymandering. But the very best of our citizen mappers, and you will meet a few of them tonight, do manage to pull it off. A high competitiveness score with high compactness. In our state, it is really, really hard to get more than 2 majority-minority districts. Mappers who really care about racial equity and social justice, and their numbers grew within the last year because of national events, are beginning to discover that it might be a better way to enhance the power of minority groups' votes to actually create large chunks, not majorities, but large chunks of them in multiple districts so that they become a voting bloc that candidates can't afford to avoid. Communities of interest is something of a lot of interest to a lot of people. It is really hard to do well. We have some mappers who've done it beautifully, but it also tends to involve a lot of jurisdictional splits and it lowers compactness. And one thing I think all of our mappers have learned is it's much easier to map the part of the state where you live that you're familiar with. And so we think one of our tasks in the coming year is to create a reservoir of information, essentially local community knowledge that could be available to citizen mappers across the state so they'd have a sense, if they're from Philly, what people in Erie really care about, what goes together, what dividing lines mean something geographically and which don't. So that's another thing we'll try to build out in the next year. Here's some other stuff we're going to be up to. And these are the tasks, these are the goals, these are the projects that the Citizen Map Corps will be essentially our leading edge on. Who's in the Citizen Map Corps? Well, we went back to the citizen mappers who've won in either regional or state honors in our contest. Many of them have won multiple times. So we've recruited a core of about 25 to 30 of them who are sort of the obvious choices, but we're going to continue to grow the core. With each contest, we're discovering new mappers. We got a great crop of maps in the contest we're currently judging, and other people we invite to join the map corps. You don't have to be an experienced mapper. If you really understand what's going on with redistricting and gerrymandering, you have a passion about it, and you're good at explaining it to other groups or students, there's a role for you in the map corps. One of the biggest things we're going to try to do over the next 6 to 8 months is make sure that as many people as we possibly can reach across Pennsylvania understand that redistricting is happening, see their personal stake and what comes out of those maps, and begin to teach folks, well, what is a good map like? What are its characteristics? What metrics help judge that? And to help them, as importantly, to recognize a gerrymander. We are going to stage a shadow commission, say a citizens mapping commission, to basically early in the process, show people around the state what a good process looks like, what good maps look like, and help teach people how to judge what eventually comes out of Harrisburg. When the Legislative Reapportionment Commission, the LRC, and the General Assembly finally begin their actual public process around the state, Senate, and House maps and the congressional maps, we want to deluge them with great citizen maps as testimony, so they have no excuse to say, we didn't know what you wanted, we didn't know what you cared about. And finally, we're going to, once the maps are out, we're going to try to help citizens all over the state give their frame, understand the maps, evaluate the maps, and frame their responses as testimony to the powers that be. And you'll hear this phrase often from us tonight. One of our mottos at Draw the Lines is give us 3 good maps now or face 1,000 plaintiffs later. So we're going to position people who we've recruited through the Citizen Map Corps as potential plaintiffs if, as we hope doesn't happen, some terribly gerrymandered maps come out of Harrisburg next year. So now let's meet some members of the Citizen Map Corps. We have 4 of them with us tonight. There are their pictures. Justin, you want to promote them out of the audience and onto the panel. I'll tell you quickly their names from left to right. Sarah Branskis from Pittsburgh. Nathaniel Ropsky, who we thank for joining us at the last moment as a replacement for another panelist who couldn't make it. Rachel Karp from Pittsburgh and Brooklyn, and Ethan Bliss from the main line near Philadelphia. So let's bring them in, Justin. Hello all. Ethan, I apologize once again for butchering your name. But let's go to each of you in turn and tell us a little bit more about yourself. Ethan? Hit mute. There we go.
Hi. So it's Athens, like the city in Greece, okay, minus the S.
You know, I knew that, but I still blew it. I apologize.
That's okay. I forgive you. Hi, my name is Athens Biss. I'm a high school history teacher here in Bryn Mawr at the Baldwin School. And I got involved with Draw the Lines through the mapping contest. And I've been running it with my politics class over the spring and summer. And also got some of my colleagues in the math department to design a mini course about the math of gerrymandering. I've had a really great experience working with the maps and learned a lot about Pennsylvania geography. And I learned that it's very hard to make a good map. So a lot of respect to the other people who have made really excellent maps here.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'm Sarah Branskis, and I guess representing the Pittsburgh region. I work with the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council, and I guess came into this through also the mapping competition, just trying to learn more about redistricting and gerrymandering myself. And everything about Draw the Lines has been so helpful. I think, you know, like working through the map myself and learning a lot through that process, and then hearing from all the other mappers is a constant learning experience. So really enjoyed this.
Thanks, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a theater artist and I make performances about politics and public policy. And one of my major projects is about gerrymandering that I'm making with another MAP Corps member, Joseph. And Draw the Lines has been a great supporter and educational opportunity. We know so much more about gerrymandering because Draw the Lines. We were regional winners a few years ago, and Athens, we realized a similar thing of it's very hard to draw a map, but it's very important to know how and know what you care about and put those values first. And we're just such big fans of Draw the Lines and all it's doing.
Thanks, Rachel. And you're so modest, you forgot to give us the name of your.
The show is called Packing and Cracking, which, as many of you probably know, are two of the most common forms of gerrymandering.
And I had the chance Sunday night to sit in on a performance of it for the Philly Fringe Festival, and a very good time was had by all. You end up playing 13 games.
Yeah.
And then my total lack of artistic ability was exposed repeatedly during the course of the evening, but I had a good time.
Everyone of every level, both drawing and gerrymandering knowledge, very welcome.
It's a great experience, and I highly recommend.
Thanks, Chris.
Are you set up to do it again anywhere that you want to tell folks about?
We're doing it tonight, but don't come to that because you're all at this event. And then we're doing a version that looks at gerrymandering in North Carolina on October 23rd and 24th. So if you want to learn about North Carolina specific gerrymandering story, I think Joseph put the link to our website in the chat. And so you could follow that and we'll have more information up there soon.
Okay, Nathaniel.
Hey everyone, my name is Nathaniel. I work at Gannon University up in Erie, PA. I work in tandem both in the admissions office and do a little bit of teaching here or there in political science. I'm sure that Chris and Justin and maybe some of the MAP Corps members here are a little tired of hearing of my story of how I came to care about gerrymandering and draw the lines, but I was one of those folks who after 2010 was A, a little bit too young to maybe fully understand gerrymandering, but B, had my county basically split in half by a gerrymandered map and didn't really fully comprehend what that meant at the time, but it kind of ushered me along to really start looking into this process in a little bit more depth and kind of, you know, in the intermediary, in the, subsequent decade, I came to draw the lines in much the same way that everybody else mentioned before, through the mapping competition, just a way for us all to kind of, make our voices heard, find the very difficult avenue of making a good map that really allows us to get true representative democracy back here in Pennsylvania. And it's just been kind of a passion project of mine, and really been excited to be able to, take part in these competitions, both on the front end and now kind of on the back end through the MAP Corps here. So happy to, be here with everybody, kind of fighting the good fight, 2020, 2021 and beyond.
And Nathaniel, I think it's true. I haven't actually done the laborious count, but I feel pretty confident in saying I think you have filed more maps into the competition than anyone else over the 4 rounds.
Now, is that a good distinction or a bad distinction?
And then I want to go back to you for a second. You teach at Baldwin School in the main line, and your students did the mapping this year. Did extraordinary work, by the way. We were blown away by what your kids did. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what the reaction was of the students in your class when they started to essentially get their minds around not just what redistricting is, but how badly Pennsylvania's done it.
So I teach at an all girls school, and my students are like between 16 and 18 years old. So a lot of my students are gearing up to vote for the first time. And I think a lot of them, as they're looking up, oh, what is my district? Where do I live? Who are my representatives? For the first time in their lives, they're really understanding political boundaries as not a natural phenomenon, but something that's been kind of engineered around them. And even the ones who can't vote, I think, feel like, wait a second, why is this system being used? Why are these lines drawn unfairly? They have a big fairness compass, like they're extremely idealistic. It's kind of refreshing that they haven't reached that like jaded level of adulthood yet. And then once they start to work on the maps, I think, they're all different, but these kids are pretty incredible. I think I had a student, I told them if they beat my number for equivalence that I would wear a t-shirt with their faces on it. Thinking that it would take them a long time to do that. And a student over the weekend got to like 150 equivalents. So, which is very low. And then she eventually got to 99. So several shirts will be worn by me. But yeah, I think that for my students, it's been pretty eye-opening. We also watched the documentary Slaying the Dragon, which they really liked. And I think for them, it's really launched a few of them into volunteering on campaigns, like finding other outlets for their own activism. So it's been a really positive experience.
Rachel, a similar question for you. You've gone through the experience both in person and now virtually with, I guess 100 or more people sort of walking in, going, packing and cracking. Okay, I have no idea, but I'll try it. And in the course of an hour, they get pretty well steeped in the ins and outs of gerrymandering. How do people tend to react during the course of your piece?
Yeah, I think one of the most impactful moments is when we play a game that's heavily based on a draw the lines exercise called Gerrymandering 101, where you actually do a very simple, we've adapted a little to like fit within the context of the show, but you just really simply manipulate a grid of different colored dots. And that's a moment where people are like, oh, like I could do this. Like it's really not that hard to manipulate things. And that's a real eye opener. And then they can understand how it happens so frequently at the political level. Another thing that we do is we show some video from where some of the most egregious lines were, looking at the congressional maps that were drawn in 2011. So Joseph and I found this line that splits a park in Reading over this falling apart red bridge. And when you look at that, it really concretizes this topic, which can be a little hard to understand in a more physical way. And you look at a park and you're like, there's no difference between what's on one side of that bridge and the other. Why should they not be in the same district? And I think those are the two things that really help people understand and want to have change.
Thank you, Rachel. Sarah, I want to come back to you and sort of pick up two threads from what we talked about in the opening. One is the difficulty and the importance of sort of the difficulty of mapping certain parts of the state and the importance of sort of a local knowledge of what really goes with other things in a community. And you were living in Pittsburgh when you won your award and did a memorable job of figuring out the problems around Pittsburgh. So that's one thing. The other thing, as you mentioned, you work in an anti-hunger agency. And in your essay, you did a really striking job of connecting that issue you work on with gerrymandering. You sort of leaped across that gap that some people can't make to connect an arcane issue like gerrymandering to an everyday concrete concern. So that's a lot, but if you could talk about like sort of how you went about applying what you knew about Pittsburgh to your map, and then how you thought about connecting your daily work to the impacts of gerrymandering.
Sure, I can take a stab at both of those. I guess the first thing I ended up, had lived in Pittsburgh for 4 years, and quite frankly, still feel like, there are lifelong Pittsburghers who would say that I just still don't know enough. And so, I think that's really the value of having a statewide group come together on this. I depended so much on the underlying topography map and looking at cities on the eastern side of the state. So for Pittsburgh, it was a lot of geography and just a lot of the communities we work with through our organization, which is already very based in neighborhoods. And so I think, again, that's just also sort of the benefit of having citizen mappers that represent each part of the state and each community. But yeah, our work, I was thinking about it even after, as work has continued this crazy year, there is this element of anti-hunger programs that happen at the federal level. And, we've seen really how important those programs are during the pandemic. And I constantly come back to this thought of, these problems are impacting so many more people. And so having representatives in office that are familiar with their constituents and actually represent the values and needs of their constituents is more important than ever. And so I actually was thinking about our mapping during a recent call because, it's more important than ever this upcoming year. But it's so much more than that. Even at the federal level, we have issues with, in Pennsylvania, we have one of the lowest minimum wages of any surrounding state. And that's something that's just constantly blockaded at the state level by our representatives. And again, it's an issue that impacts so many people that, I feel confident in saying that what is being, put out by representatives at the state level is really not truly representative of what a lot of people in the state want. And I think that's the result of gerrymandering.
Mhm. Nathaniel, I want to go to you. I also just want to note that Rachel was very kind to join us tonight because she has a performance coming up. So if she suddenly disappears, that's why. It'll be X minutes to curtain, so to speak. Nathaniel, you teach political science at Gannon, among other things. And you've probably been as I said, one of our most involved mappers. How do you connect what you see going on with the election maps in Pennsylvania with what you teach your kids about how democracy and politics are supposed to work? Is there a gap there?
There's definitely a gap. Yeah, that's the easy short answer. I think the way that I've approached it in class and the way that I tend to have approached that discussion even to other folks who might find this stuff interesting or compelling or care about these sorts of issues is to kind of find some intersectionality to those sorts of things. I mean, to kind of dovetail on what Sarah was just talking about, these sorts of problems are not just about the district themselves. They can deal with issues of hunger in communities. They can deal with how we're splitting up communities, with how we are removing representative power from folks, either based on geography or based on issue preferences or based off of one's race or ethnicity or a myriad of different things that we all, find important and want to kind of balance in these sorts of maps that we're creating here. And so for me, trying to make that connection with the students has really been about, how does the way in which the map is drawn affect the way in which the members of a political party or the members of government act and comport themselves. If they don't feel like they need to represent their communities or they don't feel like they need to be held accountable to the communities that they represent, then why do they have to mirror the community's values or the issues that those communities care about? There are a lot of different political science terms that could be used or applied to that, but the idea of kind of avoiding blame and credit claiming are kind of two major things that are at odds here. Politicians want to claim credit for the things that they do well, and they want to avoid blame for the things they do badly, but you're unable to hold politicians to that standard if the districts that are drawn don't allow for competitive elections or don't allow for true communities of interest to form, whether from the lines on the map or that just happen to exist outside of our own political geography here. And so making those connections with folks, whether they're students or just members of the community, members of a democracy, is kind of critical in saying, well, what issues do you care about? Okay, these come back to kind of these structural reforms of democracy that maybe we don't think about day in and day out. Maybe they don't get brought up in debates as often, but they're the sort of things that are underlying these sorts of issues. And long term, if we're hoping to solve these bigger problems, we need to kind of build some of these bedrock democratic norms back through things like a better just redistricting process.
Thank you. So last question for this segment. And Rachel, we'll let you go first and then you can go. What are you looking forward to doing? Well, she is going. Okay. We'll go to Sarah. What are you looking forward most to doing as a Citizen Map Corps member? And second part of the question, what's one thing that would define success for you at the end of the road? One thing you want to see by the end of 2021?
Gosh, okay. Those are big questions. I mean, something I'm looking forward to, to participating in with the Citizen Map Corps. I guess honestly, what excites me most about that is having an outlet for this like political anxiety of, wanting to change things and having a direction to go in as opposed to, sitting back and twiddling my thumbs. So there are actually a lot of, great things that are going to happen through the Citizen Map Corps. I can't say that I'm more excited for anyone than the other. I think they're all movement in the right direction. And, in terms of final outcomes, like, it would be great to just have fair maps. Is that too easy of an answer?
It's a good answer. Okay. Thank you. Athen?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the end goal, is to have some decent maps. I think for me, I'd love to see an independent commission. I'd love to see the maps taken out of the hands of politicians. And it's definitely doable. We've seen this happen in other states. So I think it really is an achievable goal. I'm excited to see, one thing I've seen in mapping too is it is actually very hard to predict how people are going to vote. Like, voting shifts happen all the time. So I think it's potentially for new Pennsylvania maps to be reformed based on the results of this election that can be more competitive. That's the value that I'd like to see, is more competitive elections and more politicians who are more responsive to their voters.
Athen, to your point, I don't think you were around for this, but there was a map done in 2000 that Republicans in Harrisburg thought were going to make a number of congressional seats safe. And because of changes in the Philadelphia suburbs, movements of people out from Philadelphia to the suburbs, just some younger people moving into some suburbs, a couple of the districts that they created that they thought were safe ended up being pretty competitive. And the notorious 2011 gerrymander was sort of a response to that scare that the dominant party got, because voters are unpredictable. So they just went to the mat to try to make it clear that they weren't going to lose those suburban seats ever again. And essentially the Supreme Court said in 2018, you went way too far with that. The old line is, pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. A former Republican state senator said to Justin and I last week that that's the story of the 2011 gerrymander. Nathaniel, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it goes without saying that, hey, fair maps, that's what we're here for. That's what we're hoping for. I think personally, removing just my own wants from it. Of course, I think that's why we're all here. We want, fair maps, we want representative districts. But I think, my goal for 21, what I want to see is that Draw the Lines PA is integral into that process, and whatever that means. If we are able to do a shadow commission and bring some notoriety in a good way because of that, if it comes to it where we have to be litigants, and many of the people who are here on this Zoom are part of that, knowing that Draw the Lines is doing stuff and is doing this good work, and that it doesn't end in November, it doesn't end necessarily when the maps are drawn, knowing that we are going to be infused in that process, that's kind of my ultimate, bigger goal here, that we get to those fair maps, but that we are, helping in that, and that we are, showing our power as citizens. And I think those are the parts of the process that I myself am also very interested in being a part of. I mean, same with what everyone else said. I'm pretty excited about all of it. But I think any of the things that kind of inject us directly into the process in ways that maybe we've never done before in Pennsylvania or in other places, and maybe that moves us towards something like an independent redistricting commission that's already happening elsewhere, I think would be great. And one final thing, Chris, before I mute myself here, I would be remiss if I didn't say that you bring up Bluto Blutarski. If memory serves, he became a senator at the end of that movie too. So, if he can do it, then maybe there's hope for some of us here to get involved on the inside too someday. You never know.
Well played, Nathaniel, well played. Also, just looking on the chat, there's some wonderful little statements about how people are feeling. Yours is quite good. Democracy bends, but don't let it break. So thank you for that too. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Athen. And here's to many more with the Citizen Map Corps and Draw the Lines. Now, next, I want to bring in somebody who's been absolutely critical to the fight to slay the gerrymander in Pennsylvania for a number of years. A wonderful friend of Draw the Lines and the leader of Fair Districts PA, Carol Kuniholm, and she's here to tell you about that piece of legislation I briefly mentioned in the open. Carol, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to hear our citizen mappers. I'm really looking forward to the work that the Map Corps is going to be doing in the new year. And Fair Districts PA is looking forward to working with the citizen mappers in regional meetings. I'm hoping we've had some kind of initial conversations with Draw the Lines about what that might look like to have regional meetings where citizens can begin to talk about what are the kind of the hard boundaries in their own districts, what really matters to their own region, and to be able to think that through so that there is some good information for anybody drawing maps once the census data is released. I'm assuming, Justin, that the slides are visible. I don't see them. Are you gonna pop up here we go. We're gonna have slides. I'm gonna talk a little bit about where we are legislatively. And yes, we tried for 4 years to get an independent commission in place. It involved trying to amend the state constitution, also amend the election code so that we could have a independent citizen commission for both legislative and congressional redistricting. If you've been following it, you know we had the most co-sponsors of any bill in this session and in the last session. We had a huge rally in 2018. We were very much looking forward to having an even larger rally in March. And just a week or so before that rally was to take place, we realized that was not going to happen because of the pandemic. And that really put a big cramp in our effort to be in Harrisburg and to be as loud as we could on the issue of getting an independent commission in place. I had one legislator involved say, you folks might have actually been able to get that done if the pandemic hadn't come, but the pandemic did come. And then our state government committees spiraled into all sorts of activity regarding the pandemic and attempts to speak back to the governor's management of that. And we lost a lot of time and did run out of time to get an independent commission in place before 2021. We had a backup plan that was brewing. And so that plan is now on the table. That plan has been introduced and we're calling it LACRA, which is the Legislative and Congressional Redistricting Act. And it is in the House Bill 2638, introduced by Representative Wendy Thomas of Bucks County, and Senate Bill 1242, introduced by Senator Tom Killian of Chester and Delaware counties. And the goal in this bill is to take the best that we know about how to put a criteria bill in place, to put constraints on the process, to force transparency, and to insist that the public be part of the process in a different way than an independent commission, and a way that I think is probably more accessible to a citizen map corps. And we're wondering if this could be a really important contribution to the national conversation about how to have fair maps. Independent commissions have had a lot of attention. We think this is a way that could yield good maps through a different route, leaving the legislators in their current roles, but putting a lot of constraints and requirements around it. So just to kind of explain them very briefly, there would be a website that would provide all of the data, all of the census data would be available to anybody who wants to see it. And as maps are produced, those maps would all be available on the website as well. And as maps are measured, anybody could do analysis on the maps and post that on the website as well. And any proposed maps, whether for congressional or legislative, would have to be put on the website and anybody could do analysis and offer comment. There would be hearings before and after plans, hearings before the plans are proposed, hearings after the plans are proposed to offer input on what works in the plans and what might need to be changed. And any Pennsylvania could submit a plan. So citizen mappers could submit a joint plan. Any mapper could submit their own plan. Any community could submit part of a plan. So if the folks in my county decided they were going to draw a house district plan for Chester County, they could submit that plan and the committee would need to review it. and their work, the committee's work, the commission's work, the Legislative Reapportionment Commission, or the legislators who were drawing congressional districts, they would have to weigh their work against whatever the public has submitted. And they would have to submit reports explaining things like why a county was divided or why a township would be divided. There'd be measurable criteria for things like compactness, contiguity, minority protection, limits on splitting counties. You wouldn't be allowed to split a county more than numerically necessary +1 for congressional or Senate maps, +2 for House maps, and precincts would not be allowed to be split at all. And simply the map would just be unlawful if there were split precincts. It would also give us verbal prohibition, a legal prohibition against drawing maps to protect incumbents or to benefit or disadvantage one party. And all of that would be balanced. Some of the criteria comes first, and then some of the would come secondary. Criteria is not listed here, but that would include acknowledging communities of interest, acknowledging geographic boundaries, and also a test for responsiveness to voters. There will be discussion, there will probably be amendment. The bill did pass out of the Senate State Government Committee last week. We're asking Senator Corman to give it a vote in the Senate, and we've had some interest from Representative Garth Everett in the House State Government Committee. We're working hard to see if we can get this passed in this session. And if it doesn't pass in this session, we still can work on it in the beginning of the next session. It would not need to be passed until the census data was actually given back to the state sometime in the spring. So if you are on our mailing list, you will be getting emails. If you're on our email list, you'll be getting emails asking you to contact your legislator. If you follow us on social media, you'll see requests on social media to contact your legislator. And as Chris said at the beginning, it's not over until it's over. We're definitely not done. We will be doing everything we can to get legislation passed. We want fair maps in 2021, but we want a system in place that guarantees fair maps every decade going forward. So we know people will be paying a lot of attention this time. And we've had legislators say, no one's going to try what they did in 2011. There's far too much public attention. Thanks to you, thanks to us, thanks to citizens across the state paying attention to this. But we want more than that. We want rules in place that provide fair maps going forward indefinitely. And we appreciate your work on this, and we look forward to working with you further as we continue.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Carol. Appreciate it. I am going to bring in Tyler Gilchrist here, if I can coordinate my Zoom management here. And so Tyler is our project manager at a GIS firm in Philadelphia called Azavia. Azavia has been working with us over the last 3 years now on DistrictBulder. And so many of you are familiar with DistrictBulder from drawing maps on their old instance, and now they've just updated DistrictBulder to a new version. And so Tyler, let me make you a co-host here. All right. First off, how you doing?
Thanks, Justin. How about yourself?
Good. All right. Good. Thank you for joining us. And so, yeah, the screen is yours if you want.
So let me just see if I can get this pulled up here. I want to share a screen. So, all right, we'll go with the Chrome window and see if that works out. Are you able to see that, Justin?
Yes.
Great.
Good. Yeah.
So, like Justin said, I'm Tyler Gilchrist. I'm a project manager with Azavia and am product manager of DistrictBulder. And so it's been something we've been working on with Committee of 70, Draw the Lines, for a while now. And it's great to see sort of the engagement that they're getting, the Citizen Map Corps engagement. In fact, a couple of familiar faces I saw there on the core actually helped us test out this new version, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Is a new, totally redesigned version of DistrictBulder that is going to, we hope, really improve on the platform we had before and give people an even better mapping experience into 2021 when the new census data comes out and that's all made available. So let me just jump into a quick demo to show what that looks like, and then I'll kind of talk about some of the benefits and features that we have in the new platform. So with the map or with the new district builder we have here, it's actually a freely available free tool. So this was something previously that we had to go and set up different states or different areas, and we had one specifically for Pennsylvania over the past couple of years. But now we're allowing anybody nationwide to come in and draw maps for their states. So if you wanted to go over to Ohio, over to Delaware, New Jersey, draw a map, those would be available for you to map as well. And so Pennsylvania, of course, is in there. Pennsylvania is our bread and butter and really a place we want to support with Draw the Lines, but we're offering free mapping in all 50 states. And we'll be releasing new states over the next couple months. So what this looks like is you come in here, you create a map. Say you want to make a Pennsylvania congressional map, so you give it a name. And then you can pick from the list of states here. We just launched last week with 10 states, but like I said, we're going to have all 50 states in there at some point over the next couple of months. And so if I wanted to select Pennsylvania, I now have a number of different choices to choose from. So we have the US House of Representatives pre-configured here. We have the Pennsylvania State Senate, and we also have the House of Representatives, and those each have the pre-configured number of districts that you want to map. And if you wanted to map a custom number of districts, like if you were expecting Pennsylvania to go down to 17 districts, you could pick a custom number here and go ahead and enter your number there to get that specific number of districts. So District Builder, a couple of things we tried to focus on this time were real improvements to the UX, and that means the user experience. So the speed, the responsiveness, the controls, we tried to improve upon and really make them more fluid and more interactive than they were before. The first thing you'll notice when you hover over the map here, you have a little cursor or a little tooltip that follows your cursor. And what some of you might remember from District Builder 1 was you could get this information by clicking on an info button and then clicking on the specific space that you wanted to see. That's all gone. And so now you have that information at your fingertips as you want to go and just sort of hover around and see where population is. Oh, what's this county? Oh, this is Forest County. That gives you that information immediately. The other thing that's changed here is how you actually select districts. So select areas to assign to districts. So you'll notice along the side here, I have a number of districts in my list. That is the number of districts that I configured, these 17 districts, and what we call the unassigned districts. So those are all the areas that have not been assigned to any particular district. As I select counties here, you'll notice that the population count in my district goes up. And let me just zoom that in so it's definitely visible there. You'll notice that population figure increases immediately as I start to select areas to put into the district. And that's getting at that real-time feedback we really wanted to give users, really increase the smooth responsiveness of that feedback so that users know what they're getting, what the areas they're selecting are doing to the districts they're drawing. And so once I have a selection here, this is just sort of a draft. I've selected a few areas. I've gotten pretty close, about within 80,000 here. Let's say I want to save that change to my map. I can go ahead and hit accept here. You'll see that the map change has been saved, and now the district becomes colored. It shows me that that's District 1. If I wanted to go into a few more counties here, select them for my District 2, all I got to do is I got to click on District 2. I select the counties that I want, and I go ahead and accept, and those changes get saved to my map. So we're really hoping to make this a quicker experience. and something that's a lot nicer for users to use. A couple of other things here, we can select from a number of different levels to map from. So the previous version of District Builder, we only went down to tracks. So we now go down to block groups. And in fact, we go down to the block level. And so that means these maps are going to be constitutionally valid maps, because you can really balance that population extremely finely within 0 population deviation for your district. So that gives us the power to map very finely. We have a little bit of a warning here because blocks are a little bit more of an advanced feature, but if you come down here to the block level, you'll see we actually have blocks that have 1 person in them. So you can make those really fine modifications to your districts. So those are kind of the big highlights of the demo. Justin is going to be sharing out a link to access this if you're a Draw the Lines participant, and if you follow that specific link, you'll be able to get into District Builder, and we'll be able to register you with Draw the Line. So because this is more of an open platform, we need to be able to tell if you're with Draw the Line. So that specific link will be a key way to get into District Builder and let us know that you're a participant with Draw the Lines. But just to give a couple of highlights here over the next couple months. So like I said, we've really tried to improve the user experience, the speed, the responsiveness of the editing. And the big thing is you can do constitutionally valid maps by drawing at the block level. We'll be releasing new features through Q1 of next year. So we just launched last week. We have a number of new features coming, and we'll be releasing in regular cycles, either bi-weekly or monthly. And those will include things like easy ways to share your map. So a link to send your map over social media and have people look at it. New mapping tools that help you better find areas maybe that you missed, or maybe where things are non-contiguous, or things like that. And then additionally, we're working with Public Mapping Project, Michael McDonald and Micah Altman on the Public Mapping Project side to acquire the election results data from the past 2 elections. And those will go into feed competitiveness metrics. So you'll be able to see the partisan bias and the balance of the competitiveness of districts that you draw. So those are some exciting new things that we're hoping to release. Yeah, like I said, follow that link that Justin shares out, and we'll be able to get you into the system. And we hope that you try it out and let us know. We've got a couple of ways to hear from you. So we've obviously got the GitHub repository with the code. You can create issues in there. You can go to support@districtbuilder.org. You can send us an email and let us know how things are going. I think we're going to put a little chat functionality in there as well. So really looking to hear from people, get their feedback on this, and let us know how we're doing and how we might be able to improve things.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tyler. If you want to unshare your screen, I'm going to share mine too, and then just very briefly show everyone exactly the link that he was referencing. So we are kind of kicking off our next competition using District Builder, the newest version tonight. So what we've got on our website, which I'll show you in just a second, is a new way to access that. The competition that we've started is going to be detailed on our site. We don't have a set deadline yet because we're trying to work around the census. And since that timeline is still up in the air, we don't quite know when the deadline is going to be, but it's going to be sometime in the spring. And so we're just going to have rolling entries accepted between now and then. You heard Tyler say that some of the competitiveness or political data isn't on there yet, but it will be. And so what we advise folks to do is just go in and start playing around with the software and getting used to it. And then as features start to roll out, then really jump on and start to really fine tune your map, because this is going to be kind of the final competition before things get real. You know, once the census data is released, then Xavier is going to dump it into District Builder, and then we're going, full speed till maps are finalized. And so this is kind of our final final push to get ready for that. So we're still going to have prizes. We're going to have congressional and legislative mapping capability. We're still doing divisions, and it's kind of the same as we've always done, sharing with your legislator and the local media. So if you go to our website, drawthelinespa.org, and then click on the draw map page on the right side, this is the same path that we've had previously. You know the steps hopefully by now. And then when you go to this this button here, you're ready to draw a map. It's going to keep you on our DTL page for a second, and we're doing all signups now on our page. And so what you do, just read through some quick instructions here, and then you're signing up here on our page through this form. And then once you complete that form, you click submit, and you will get a link to DistrictBulder through our channel. And the reason why this is important is it helps us keep in touch with you, basically. Let you know, or lets us know that we haven't entered into the competition, so that we can help support you throughout your endeavor to map PA. So once you're done, you can come back. We've got forms linked throughout our website where you can submit your map. And so we'll do the judging sometime in the spring. But we are very much looking forward to seeing your maps. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Everybody on this webinar should have my email, or you can send it to info@drawthelinespa.org to get any questions that you have answered. So that said, shall we?
Yes, I'm
go
going
back to
to
Chris?
do a little quick audible. If we could go to slides 18 to 19, then we'll come back to the video to sort of wrap up.
Of course.
People can write their stuff in the chat while the video is going on.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to sort of go over again what our plans are for the next part of this year and certainly into 2021. If you could share screen slide 18, Justin.
Is that this one? Are you saying? Oh, shoot. All right, let's do, it would actually help if I shared my screen, wouldn't it? All right, there we go.
Okay, so what we're looking for out of Harrisburg in our maps, we have a little acronym that just helps us keep in mind the elements of what we want out of the process and the result. We want it to be transparent, we want it to be genuine, we want it to be inclusive, and we want the result to be fair. So if a legislator, if you're ever talking to them and they say what you want, you can just tell them TGIF. These are the things we need from you. So we're focusing right now in this event and others coming up on the public education piece, helping people understand what their personal stake is in the redistricting issue and helping them figure out what's a good map and what's a bad one. We've heard a little bit about the Shadow Commission tonight. That's something we're looking to do timed around the release of the census data. As Carol mentioned and others have mentioned, we're definitely looking to just flood Harrisburg with citizen maps as formal testimony. When the maps come out, as I mentioned before, we're going to try to help people community by community sort of organize their response and get over the hurdles and the confusion of submitting testimony. And finally, as mentioned before, we're delivering that message, 3 good maps now or 1,000 lawsuits later. I want to go to the next slide if we could, Justin. This is kind of a ladder of engagement we created for the Citizen Map Corps, but it's kind of for all of you too, depending on how you want to jump in. So we're going to premiere our video in a minute. While it's running, if you want to go into the chat and tell us things that you'd be interested or willing to do with us, up to and including joining the Citizen Map Corps, we'd love to hear that. We'll capture the chat and get back to you. But it can be as simple as talking to a neighbor about gerrymandering and making sure they understand how important 2021 is. It could be about sharing news about what we're up to. It could be actually leading an event yourself, all the way up to testifying to the General Assembly. So there's all kinds of steps on the ladder. We can share the slides with everyone here, and so you can have that. So, you know, if you want to put something in the chat, if there's something on the list you want to do, or you have a great idea, why don't you guys do this, or I think I could do this to help fight the gerrymander, we'd love to hear from you now. But I do want to turn back to 2 special guests who we're delighted to have with us here today, named Dave Winston and Chris Marston. Is Chris with us too? Yeah, there he is. So guys, get the video up. Dave was the producer and Chris was the director and editor of a movie you're about to see, a video you're about to see, which tells the story of the Draw the Lines project. Before that, when we were launching Draw the Lines, and we wanted to start by telling the inspiring story of Amanda Holt, sort of the Joan of Arc of gerrymandering reform in Pennsylvania. It was Chris and Dave who pulled together that lovely 4.5-minute profile of her that has been on our website since the day it launched. So welcome, Dave. Welcome, Chris. Dave, you said you had a story to tell about Draw the Lines and making videos about it.
Well, I mean, part of my part of my enthusiasm for the project was, in a real way, was a form of penance. Before I was a producer, I was a sound man, and I worked on a lot of documentaries and commercials and political campaigns. When I started out back in the 80s, the only people who could afford big commercials for their candidates were presidential campaigns, governors, senators, and the odd hot congressional race. But then a funny thing happened in the 90s. All of a sudden, state house and state senate campaigns started getting money from out of state and could afford to bring in big name political consultants who would teach them how to walk and talk and avoid answering questions, and they'd make commercials. And I would work on them. And it wasn't until a few years later, it was kind of what happened in that era in the late 90s was that whoever was shouting the loudest, whoever had the money for the commercial buy was winning. And that was when they first grabbed the state of Pennsylvania like an Etch-a-Sketch and shook it and redrew all the lines. And it was a few years later, I was talking with one of my neighbors and I found out we had different congressmen, even though we lived virtually across the street from each other. And that's because I lived in the infamous Pennsylvania 7th. And the line came down my street and around the corner and put me in with 700,000 farmers in Lancaster, Berks, and Chester County. And that's fine. That's a great company to be in, but we didn't have the same values. We didn't have the same requirements. And that's when it was that I realized that the work that I had done in the 90s, I was now paying the price for as a citizen in the 2000s and beyond and today. So I was really glad when we got to work on this, and particularly when we met Amanda Holt and saw what she did on her kitchen table with some maps and some charts. So working on this project for me has been about trying to reclaim something that I didn't know I was complicit in back in the early days of my career.
All right, Dave, you're absolved. Chris, we were clipping along nice, working on this video, and the big idea was we were going to have an event in the state capitol on March 19th, I think it was, of this year, called PA Map Day. And you were going to be directing 2 crews up there, and we were just going to swarm that lovely event. And then, what do you know, pandemic happened. So you had to sort of completely revise your plan for this video. You came up with some pretty creative solutions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was very disappointing that we weren't going to be able to focus on the map day in March. So, having you at my disposal, Chris, as a journalist and a writer, the first idea I had was to sort of enlist you as a voiceover artist and to write a script just sort of around all of the pieces that we had. We had started interviewing about a half dozen folks and planned to interview a lot more in Harrisburg. So then we had to sort of figure out some creative solutions to continue our interviewing, which we did through Zoom, and then utilize just the vast archive of material you had already had from volunteers, photographs, other videos, and things like that. You know, we recycled some of the images I noticed in the PowerPoint presentation that we've seen tonight. So yeah, it was just kind of utilizing a grab bag of like cinematic tools and tricks to kind of tell the story and get it done. So I'm happy we were able to finish it, even though it kind of it was a very different video than we had set out to make.
Thanks very much, Chris. And it was a great joy working with PWP Video, which is based in Philadelphia and does a lot of work with mission-driven organizations. So they get the idea of mission, and that makes a difference in what they do. I know many of you, we're going to show the video now. I know many of you, we've gone a little over time, so many of you may drop off, or some of you may. Before we start the video, which will sort of be the end of the webinar, I do want to mention we have another event coming up on October 13th. It will be on Facebook pretty much all day long, punctuated with some Facebook Live stuff, including the awards ceremony for the winners of the contest that we're currently judging. We're also talking about having a kind of live mapping demo of some of our Map Corps members, sort of dueling maps. Kind of a Twitch gaming thing, though not on Twitch. So we've got a bunch of stuff planned for that day. The newsletter and the website will keep you informed about that. So for now, thank you very much, Dave and Chris. And sort of to end our evening, we'd like to share with you the premiere of the video these two gentlemen put together about the story of Draw the Lines.
Once upon a time, there was a noble land called Pennsylvania. It had so much cause for pride: verdant farms, red brick cities, colleges and culture, industrious residents, and above all, a glorious legacy as the place where America was invented. But Pennsylvania had a problem. In the birthplace of democracy, the home of the Gettysburg Address, government of, by, and for the people had gone awry. It was haunted by a stealthy beast with a strange name, the Gerrymander. Working in shadows, the Gerrymander mutilated the maps the state used to hold its elections. It left those maps in jagged tatters that made no sense to voters. The Gerrymander's handiwork did have a twisted logic. Its aim to benefit its masters, the incumbent politicians, and their goal was to make sure they never lost an election. Simply put, to cheat voters and democracy.
Well, gerrymandering itself is something that I think many of us probably heard somewhere in a civics class. And we know at its core that it erodes the whole issue of one man, one woman, one vote.
We use this analogy that elections and campaigns are like job interviews, where the candidate is applying for a job and the voters are essentially the hiring committee. Well, what's happened over the years is because of gerrymandering, it's allowed the candidates for office to choose the hiring committee. Those people in, those people out. Include them, exclude others. So that, in short, is the power that's embedded in drawing maps.
For a long time, this cheating worked, and Pennsylvania suffered. Then a few years ago, across the Commonwealth, ordinary people began to notice those bizarre maps and the damage they did. And they began to band together in a quest to slay the gerrymander. One such group was Draw the Lines PA, started by the Committee of 70. Its notion was simple. The gerrymander thrived because people didn't know how election mapping really worked.
I think increasingly we've come to understand how important it is to give our citizens a kind of a hands-on, roll-up-your-sleeve experience in changing and reforming and improving our local democracy. And Draw the Lines is a participatory process where thousands of Pennsylvanians could literally take the mouse into their own hand and draw their own congressional and legislative maps.
So, with games and slides, crayons and charts, Draw the Lines ventured all across the state, summoning people to the work. In high schools and taverns, fancy conferences and family rooms, college campuses and public libraries, people responded. They played the games, learned the jargon, mastered the DistrictBulder software. and they made maps. By the thousands, they made maps. Maps reflecting their sense of fairness. Maps proving that Pennsylvanians are ready, willing, and able to do this core task of democracy. Who were these mappers? They were high schoolers.
Personally, I think that the most important thing, obviously, is to have our representatives and our districts really, really reflect the populations of our state. So
They were college students.
We tried to strive for compactness and a little bit of competitiveness, but mainly keeping communities of interest together. And I think
They were artists and computer geeks and advocates who saw how the gerrymander had harmed the people. A key part of the effort were the teachers and professors who put the Draw the Lines challenge to their students.
Well, I would hope that the students take away from the course a sense of community and a sense of participation and a sense of what they call efficacy, that their participation does in fact matter. So I think lawmakers, when they look at students who have participated or competed, what they should see is that the students are engaged in a level that I don't think has been done before.
I think undoubtedly what excites me about Draw the Lines is the energy and excitement of young people. I mean, face it, the future of America is in young people, and I'm encouraged in what I see about the young people who have participated, high school students, college students, not only the passion that they bring to it and the skill that they bring to it, but I'm particularly impressed by the eloquence and the articulation of their passion.
The mappers took their work to their elected lawmakers to let them know that gerrymander's days were numbered. Twice, Draw the Lines filled the rotunda at the state capitol in Harrisburg, honoring its best mappers with big prizes and showing the powers that be that Pennsylvanians were done with having their democracy sliced and diced by cheaters. And even when the coronavirus kept one such rally from happening, the people of Draw the Lines flocked to Zoom to send the message.
The entire concept of gerrymandering effectively deprives people of an equal vote, which I think is absolutely disastrous for any democracy.
If we don't have representatives that are running in elections where the opponent is forcing them to think creatively about an issue or differently about an issue or reflect more on the issues, then we're never really going to get anywhere.
As a voter, a new voter, I think that there's really a lot that we can do as voters.
Get in touch with your local representatives. We do live in a representative democracy. Your vote does matter. You do have sway on the people that you put in office. They work for you. It's time to remind them of that.
Places in the past have moved towards independent redistricting commissions, and we've seen it work. And I think that should give us hope that we are able to do this ourselves.
I think people know so much more about gerrymandering and its problems than they did before, and they should put as much pressure as they can on their elected officials to draw fair districts at every level.
As 2021 nears and election maps are to be drawn anew, Draw the Lines mappers are determined to make their hard work lead to better process and fairer outcomes. Draw the Lines PA shows what can happen when ordinary citizens regain a sense of ownership and mastery over the levers of democracy. When they say, no more cheating. From here on in, we draw the lines.
In Pennsylvania, the gerrymander may not yet be fully slain, but it is definitely wounded and on the run. So now, let us finish the job.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance. We are going to share that link in our next newsletter coming out in the next day or two. You'll have that, and feel free to share it out as much as you like. And then we'll hopefully see your sign up with the new version of District Builder. Thank you very much to everybody. And thank you to all of our panelists tonight for presenting. So we will talk to you all soon. Take it easy.
Did we capture the chat?
Yeah, I think Catherine's working on that.
Okay.
I've got it.
There's some
Got
good
it.
stuff.
Awesome.
There's some good stuff in the chat that we could put out on social.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
We should talk to this this guy who put the long note in. I don't know. Is he a Fair Districts guy or what? But it was an interesting note.
Awesome.
There was also, did you see there was a woman from Seattle came in?
I did see that. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Okie dokie.
All right, smooth guys. Thanks very much.
That was great. Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah,
that was
I
awesome.
didn't do much, but happy to be here.
No, it was nice to have the backup.
Yeah, sure. It always is. I will, I'll move the chat to a Google Doc and I'll send it both your way.
Yeah, we've got this recording still. So can we cut this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I will stop.